Hello, everyone. How's it going? We're just waiting to get things set up, so we'll be starting in a few moments. Hey, Trevor, can you hear me?
I can. How's it going?
Good. All good. We're just waiting on Thomas and Ryan, correct? I see Ryan just joined.
Yeah, I was just speaking with them. They should be hopping on any second now.
Cool.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, Ryan, good to have you. How's it going?
Good.
Yeah. So we'll just wait for Thomas if he hasn't here already, and then we can get things going.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Got some heavy hitters here today. I'm really excited.
Yeah, definitely something new to be heard and learned today. I had to say Trev. Inside Canadian
Now,
joke.
now you're speaking my language, friend. Yes, I get you fully. I feel like we've never been closer. Yeah, no, on that note, very, very much looking towards learning some things. And I'm sure that's the understatement of the century as well. Already, just from the prep that we've been doing here, I feel like the learning curve has been nice and steep, which makes a guy happy here. So everyone who's here, you're in for a good one. If you're a guy or a man or a woman who likes to learn and who's passionate about this space, I think there's gonna for sure be some awesome content here for you to scoop up and take away. But yeah, Miros, how are you doing today, my friend?
Yeah, doing great. You said it well. And actually, we have quite a few team members joining as well. Some as co-hosts, some as listeners. I see Messari's tuned in as well. So we're almost ready to go. Have you guys heard from Thomas, or should we maybe just get the ball rolling?
Yeah, I just sent him the link, so he should be hopping in soon.
Okay, cool. I guess while we wait for him and some other people to tune in, yeah, I'm just curious to know. Do you guys do a lot of Twitter Spaces? You or Messari, like, is that something that you're quite active on, or just kind of getting started?
Yeah, so we have done a few over the past couple months. We started a happy hour Twitter Spaces, and Governor has been featured 2 or 3 times in that. And it's always great to just raise awareness around governance, DAO governance. It's a new area, and I know that there are a lot of questions about kind of feasibility and strategies and all that. So it's always a great time to join and talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, by the way, I guess before we actually get into the structured topics, is Governor something that has been active recently, or have you had that for quite some time on your platform?
Yeah, so Messari Governor launched, I believe it was December 17th last year. So
Okay.
it's a relatively new product. Yeah.
Okay.
And we started off covering something like 40 DAOs, I want to say, and we're now covering over 100 DAOs. So the way the product works is essentially we track governance for all of our DAOs all the way from preliminary discussions in the forums. So we have a team of 4 analysts, and we'll go through and we track all of the forums. We kind of vet all the posts, and we're really trying to separate signal from noise to provide summaries on our actual front end. So if you follow any of the 100 plus DAOs we cover, you can go onto our Messari Governor page, which is free to use, and kind of see those discussions as they bubble up in the forums. And then what our product does is it tracks those proposals all the way from the beginning of the life cycle through to voting, letting you know when the vote starts, letting you actually vote on those proposals on our platform. And then we'll automatically track those if it's an on-chain governance vote to execution. So we're really trying to provide the full life cycle of a proposal, providing helpful analysis and summarization of those proposals throughout the process.
Cool. No, sounds really interesting, and obviously like a real powerful tool to have. We'll get into that, of course, a bit later. But as we just wait a couple more moments, I was wondering like how things are going on your end, particularly as it pertains to current market conditions. What's the vibe like on your end? How are you guys feeling?
Yeah, things are a bit. It's a bit of a break from kind of the madness, which I think we're all kind of grateful for on some level. It's really been an interesting reset on the governance space to kind of watch the different tokenomic structures that have arisen, how they fare in slower market conditions, and then from the Messari standpoint, we just raised our Series B, so all is good on the Messari roadmap. We're super excited to be continuing building in the space and excited to see what comes out of the bear market.
Awesome. No, well, congrats on that. And actually, I must say, we're excited to have you here. Obviously, we're not as big yet on our side, Unique Venture Clubs, but collaborating with a platform such as yours is something that we're definitely excited about. And there's always naysayers, right, who question and doubt whether you can achieve something, and so we're pretty excited to be listed both on your platform and to have you join our Twitter space. It means quite a lot to us and our community, and the key here is to really add value to as many people as possible. And actually, on the note of Twitter space calls, it's something that we've been doing frequently over the past recently, past couple of months, and this is the format moving forward. So as I speak, people are joining in, so it's good to have both people who are active in our community and new listeners joining. I guess we can begin. I see that Thomas is here, but we're having just trouble adding him as a co-host, I believe. So, yeah, Thomas, have you? Well, I guess you can't really speak, but I'm wondering whether you've requested to actually join the call. Ryan, Trevor, do you have any word?
I was just going to quickly say it wouldn't be a successful Twitter space without the classic technical difficulties. So I think we're right on the right track.
Oh, actually, yes, indeed. I do believe the issue is Thomas might have joined on his computer. And as I understand, it must be done over the phone, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, we can kick things off, not to keep the people waiting, and then of course Thomas can jump right in. So yes, I'd like to welcome everyone to this exclusive episode. We actually have this Twitter space which we call Investing with Friends. We usually do this every Wednesday with a bunch of interesting projects, platforms, companies, all things Web3 related. However, this is actually an exclusive. So we are in fact doing one tomorrow as well. We, of course, had to make, special time for Messari. And in particular, because they have an announcement to make. Regarding something that an initiative they're beginning tomorrow, which we'll get into. But as for this particular space, in a bit more detail, we will be talking about both Messari platform and also DAO governance as a whole. For those who don't know, and maybe there's only a few who don't know, but Messari is a platform providing professional-grade data, tools, and research. They have a specific section on their platform, as we just alluded to, called Governor, where you can search for DAOs, see proposals, find different tools. And as I briefly mentioned earlier, for those who joined at the beginning, Unique Venture Clubs has recently been listed on the platform, and we're super excited to learn more about Messari's goals and visions moving forward, and then also some topics around DAO governance. So just to introduce the speakers and some of audience members, as I see there's quite a few interesting people here. On the side of Unique Venture Clubs, we have our co-hosts, myself, Marco, and Travis, who are leading business development and marketing side of Unique Venture Clubs. We have Alex, who's one of our co-founders and CEO, and then actually a bunch of other team members tuning in as well, our other co-founders and some other colleagues as well. And then on the side of Messari, we have Thomas, who is, I believe, still trying. Marco's helping on the back end to get him speaking, who's Messari Governor Manager, and then both Trevor and Ryan, who we just spoke to now, governance analysts. Ryan, Trevor, how are things going on your end?
Great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing that actually comes to mind, before we get into specifics around Messari, DAO governance, etc., I'm actually curious, and maybe some other people here are as well, to learn very briefly a bit more about your backgrounds and how you actually came to these positions rather at Messari. Given this whole space is fairly new, I think these roles that you guys are operating in are pretty interesting. So good to just hear briefly your backgrounds, how you got here, and essentially what it is that you do at Messari.
Yeah, sure. So my background professionally is kind of all over the place, but in terms of Web3 and crypto, I started really contributing to DAOs kind of like early spring last year. So I worked a bit contributing mostly with Index Coop, and that was a great experience. Index DAO has a really unique role in terms of governance, since they provide essentially tokenized ETF, crypto native ETF coins. So they'll have one token that kind of collects a bunch of other tokens within it as kind of a basket of goods, right? To either increase exposure to areas you don't know as much about, or to try and get a more diversified asset collective. So because of that, they had really interesting governance implications. So I kind of got sucked down the governance rabbit hole there, and then joined Messari in January as a governance analyst on the governor team. And that's been a great ride as well. So that's kind of my quick Web3 background.
Yeah, so I was a student and I got involved with Rabbit Hole's meta governance, and it kind of got governance pilled there, and I started at Messari in May and as a governance analyst, and now here I am.
Cool. And just out of curiosity, how big is your team? You three and any other people involved on this side of the business unit?
Yeah, so our team right now we've really expanded a lot. As of January, it was me, Tomas, and Kara, one of our other analysts. Right now we have a team of 5 on the research side, and then we have, I think, 4 on the engineering side, kind of building out the product and doubling down on making sure that the product side of it is as robust as possible. And then we have one product manager who's in charge of Governor, and now kind of leading the charge on some of the similar products as well. So there's about 10 of us.
Awesome. And obviously you touched on what Messari Governor is, but we had only a few people join, so I think it would be helpful if you could once again maybe share, but give, let's call it an elevator pitch on what Messari Governor is, You mentioned it was launched in December of last year, but effectively, what it is that you're trying to achieve with this particular vertical, and then how do DAOs and tools and all other things relating, how do they apply to be listed on your platform? Obviously, we know, but there are some listeners here who might be curious to know after this call.
Yeah, it looks like Tomas may have made it to the stage, so I'll let him handle this.
Hello guys. Yeah, sorry for the technical issues. I had to refresh everything, but well, I'm finally there. Got your questions. So what we do at Governor is that we are a governance aggregator, compiling and covering a governance proposal from more than 100 DAOs. And our goal is to compile and aggregate the entire process into one place, which is our proposal tracker, so that instead of having to open a forum post, a forum topic, Discord topic, Twitter, then snapshot voting, off-chain voting platform, and an on-chain voting platform, you can just go on Governor and a proposal is summarized. We provide taxonomy as well, a level of importance, a sentiment for the discussion, and then we cover it from the discussion phase to the off-chain vote, to the on-chain vote, to the execution, and so that you can cover everything there, and you can monitor everything there, and well, you can do it more efficiently, and not spend all your time there. What we released last May is Governor V2, which is like an iteration on what we launched 1 year ago with Governor V1, and we now provide DAO profiles for a ton of DAOs, for all the DAOs we covered, detailing the governance structures of the DAO we covered with the main DAO, the sub DAOs, and all the details on those ones. Then we detail the governance processes for all the DAOs we cover, so that if at some point you look at one proposal that we added or that we covered, and you wonder why we marked it as failed or succeeded or cancelled, you can just go on that DAO profile, look at the governance process, look at if there is any quorum, any conditions for having a proposal passed, or and understand how to participate and how to get a proposal passed through governance. And finally, aside of that, we compiled, I'd say, the widest DAO directory and DAO tools directory, compiling a ton of DAOs from the broader DAO landscape. So we split it into a ton of categories and tags, so that if you want to find I don't know, a venture DAO, for example, an investing DAO, a collector DAO, you can just filter it on Governor and find a list of those, filter by network, and then DAO tools. So if you want to find a payroll tool, a net chart tool, a service tool for DAO, you can also go on our directory, filter it, and find a quick description with the main links, with some partners that those service providers have been working with, and yeah. So that's a good, a quick and let's say a quick description of what we are doing at Governor.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Definitely a lot of things going on your end when it comes to that, and it makes sense why you guys have such a big team and expanding, because I can only imagine how much work there is involved in all of that. But if you can break it down for us, I'll pose a fairly simple question, which I'm sure is a lot more complicated than it might sound. But how do you guys actually go about aggregating all of this information that you just mentioned?
Well, I think that will be a question more for Trevor and Ryan, since it's our great team of governance analysts that do that on a day-to-day basis. So I'll just let them answer.
Yeah, so really, we've kind of worked amongst our team on the back end to create as efficient a pipeline as possible for essentially intaking all the information that we can, kind of from the wide spectrum of DAO coordination and communication tools that are out there. And the way we, I guess, a kind of a window of how we work is, as I mentioned before, we kind of have this fire hose of information of new proposals, new discussions that we've largely automated on our side. And then it's really the analyst's role to kind of quickly and efficiently parse through that information and separate the signal of what actually might be a good proposal, what has a good chance of passing, what is noise or an advertisement, and make sure that we can parse that information out to provide you guys and the users of our product helpful, meaningful analysis on kind of what the scope of proposals might be for a given DAO. From that point, we've actually managed to integrate with much of the on-chain and off-chain governance platforms. So like Snapshot, Compound Governor Alpha Bravo, Open Zeppelin most recently, and then some of the more custom governance modules like Aave and DYDX so that we can automate the tracking of the votes. So really, the hardest part about it is that first part, the forum discussions. And I think that just comes with kind of the context that we have as analysts in the field to understand, who the main proposers of proposals are and who the core contributors are to help provide that analysis.
No, interesting. That's definitely useful to know. And something that comes to mind, which is of interest, and I hope for the audience as well, is obviously this whole space is emerging, and I suppose when the market condition is low as well, then I always wonder how active things are, right? Like what traffic looks like. So can you maybe give us a pulse on let's say like the people, if you have any ballpark numbers of the traffic going on your platform, and in particular number of proposals that you're seeing come through, how would you maybe define how the market's looking right now in that sense, in terms of like activity and traffic?
Well, we don't have any specific numbers to give on our on governor traffic. What we can say is that in May, right after Terra collapse, and let's say the start of the bear market, what we've seen is like an activity, a governance activity, and proposal activity that has slowed down a lot, with a lot of proposal cancelled, with a lot of proposal that were failing due to quorum, or just were cancelled before the end of the vote due to market conditions. But that lasted maybe a couple of weeks, and then governance activity just resumed. And as of now, we increased our coverage, of course, but the number of proposals that we cover on a weekly basis, it's pretty much at the same level as before all that, and before the bear market. And like the activity is maybe not the same, but it doesn't slow down that much, to be honest.
Okay, good to know. And then actually regarding the whole, let's say, listing process, right? Obviously, from our side, we know what it looked like. So for those who might not know, Unique Venture Clubs, as I mentioned, is listed as a tool under the governance section of Messari. And we went through this application process where we filled out a form on. But I'm curious more so from your end, maybe for those listeners who are building something in this space, have let's say like a DAO that they're looking to establish and would like to be listed, or a tool. Can you maybe give us a bit of insight into how the process works on your end? Are there any particular things obviously what you can share, right? Are there any particular things that you're screening? And as you mentioned earlier, you do have to filter some things as well, right? You can't just accept anything and everything to be listed. So, what are those key things that you're looking at in terms of what's worth listing and what's not?
Yep, actually, that's a very good question, and well, so to answer on how to be listed on our directories, first I will make a difference between our directories, our DAO directory, and our DAO2 directory, which are quite different from our proposal tracker, where when you are listed there and covered there, that means that we cover you actively on a day-to-day basis. We cover all your proposals, all your discussions, and it requires a lot more work. But to be covered on and to be listed on our DAO and DAO2 directory, you can go to our platform, to messari.io/governor, and suggest any ideas you want to any DAOs you want, or just request to be listed. You will have to fill a short form with some details on what you're doing, who to contact, who we can contact if we have any question, a potential like the sector you are working on, if you are more an investing DAO, a collector DAO, a protocol DAO, or a fundraising tool, a payroll tool, a service tool, or whatever, and provide just details to help us look more into what you're doing. And we'll receive a notification, we'll look at it, and as said, we want the largest database of DAOs and DAOs tools. So when we look at it, we'll take care of it and list you if and that's a big if, is that we are trying to list like DAOs and DAO tools that are launched and that are on mainnet and that have already a product and that are already like a product used by some DAOs. So if you can provide us that, we'll list you in a timely manner.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that. It's any advice that we hear from you is always a helpful thing. We know from our side, we were always curious about these points when filling out the application, like what goes through on the screening process on your end. So I'm sure our audience appreciates those words. And actually, one thing that crossed my mind, and I'm curious to put you guys a bit on the hot spot and see where your thoughts lie about this is, obviously I view you as like the market leading search engine. You guys have clearly reached the level you're at now. The thing that I wonder is what actually makes you different from other platforms. Obviously, you, I would say, have the market share size, but beyond that, is there anything that you're doing in particular that sets you apart? Also moving forward, right? Given this is a developing market.
Yep, very good question. So I'd say the first point is focused on Messari Governor, and our main differentiator is that we have our team of governance analysts that curate and manually curate everything, which is a very, very, very time-consuming task to do on a day-to-day basis. And the more we increase our coverage, the more time-consuming it becomes. And actually, we do that. We decided to do that because we want to provide good data, data that has been created by humans and by analysts that monitor those kind of things and build an expertise on governance, on proposals, on forums, and are able to 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 provide more and more insights as they grow the coverage. And so that's for Messari Governor. Then the depth of our coverage. We, as Trevor said, we integrated Governor Alpha, Bravo, OpenZapling Governor, Ave framework, and we are going to integrate a lot more frameworks. Maker is coming. Cosmos Governor module is coming. Polkadot governance platform as well is coming, and we want to provide insights for all space, for all chains. So we are going to integrate a lot more governance modules and a lot more governance frameworks. And then something to consider is that Messari Governor is part of Messari suite of products. So that's actually what makes Messari, not Messari Governor, but Messari as a bigger company, one of the leader, if not the leader, in terms of research, data, and insights in the crypto world, is that you can go on Messari Governor and have all governance and all DAO related content there, directly created, aggregated, and transparent. And you can jump to our research pieces, you can jump to our protocol metric stuff, you can jump to our data apps that we are building, you can jump to our Intel tool that is doing mainly what we do on Governor, but on the network level, on the hack level, on the security level, on the team level as well. And combining all that, that's what makes Messari the leader or one of the leading data provider and research and insight provider in the market.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Obviously, I have a bunch of questions to ask, but I won't hold the mic and not let anyone else jump in. So maybe I'll open up to my colleagues who are co-hosting as well. Do any of you have anything that you'd like to ask?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to jump in here. Just one other thing I've noticed and have been just very impressed by is logging onto your page, your platform, and just seeing how above and beyond just DAOs it goes into. You know, like there you have all the research about DeFi, NFTs, even. So I get the sense that this is a one-stop shop for all things Web3, and I was just wondering, how much of a focus do you guys put into kind of just the typical retail investors looking to make smart investment choices, and kind of what that looks like in your process?
Yeah, I can jump in. I would argue that, you know, whether it's an enterprise company, a VC, or a retail investor, at least my primary concern in research is providing a holistic portrait of what the truth is, what the data says about a given project, and making sure that that's reflected accurately. You know, my job isn't to kind of make recommendations, but expose kind of as much truth as I can about a given product, its business prospects, and what its role might be in the ecosystem. You know, that's kind of the main goal. So I think the takeaway is kind of up to a retail investor to decide based on the data that we've provided what they think the best action might be. Yeah, I guess that's my perspective.
Gotcha, man. That makes a ton of sense. Exactly. I think the most informed investors will be the most successful, and I think having all this information literally at your fingertips is going to, just give people such a huge advantage in this market, especially these days. being such a transitory phase in the macro scheme of things here. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question again. Because you said, since the beginning, let's say, of the bear market or in current market conditions in general, the activity across DAOs has, shrinked. Do you see any difference, in terms of categories of those DAOs? So protocol DAOs versus, let's say, investment DAOs and so on. Is there some difference in this trend, or they're all declining evenly?
I wouldn't really say that they're declining. There's still activity in the forums every single day. But there are some trends with a social DAOs, I think, and differences between the amount of times they post on the forum and have votes going up. But I mean, obviously DeFi and stuff like that, you're gonna have more technical proposals. They take longer to come to fruition, but I don't think that they're necessarily declining because of that.
Thanks.
Yeah, and actually something that just comes to mind now, given that you guys are, let's say, on the front lines, right? You're analyzing this on a daily basis. Curious to know. Obviously, we read a bunch about DAOs, the pros and cons, right? The ways it adds value, but then also the barriers it has, and limitations, let's say. So would be good for you to comment on what challenges that you're seeing, as I said, in those front lines of your research when it comes specifically to DAO governance.
Yeah, I think DAOs are having a hard time just getting contributors that are high context and also mission aligned. And I think that's one of the big things, right? A lot of people want to see token prices going up or paying for services, and not a lot of people want to get into the nitty gritty DAO work and actually see the protocol survive long term. And so I think that kind of comes down to a root problem of just having a financial incentive by holding the token and voting with that token. And I mean, there's a few Vitalik pieces on this, but yeah, I think just having people that are mission aligned in DAOs.
Yeah, and from that perspective, do you see if that's more about your thoughts, I guess, on this point. Do you see token and community being something that support each other, or somewhat of a conflict as well, right? Because you kind of need to build a sort of a, let's say, product market fit for your DAO, and you need, like you said, to make contributors do something meaningful, right, and work inside the DAO. But then also have to worry about the token price, which can sometimes be somewhat conflicted, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times you kind of just see people trying to pump their bags, and that might be in the form of a token burn or something of the sort. But nobody's really trying to get into mechanism design and how does this DAO change parameters and save $5 million this year, which is really how they will survive, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with Ryan a lot there. I think we've started to see different approaches to try and solve that same problem, and I don't think we've found the right solution. But whether it's voting escrow or kind of identity-based governance, like we've seen with the Optimism Collective, I think we're kind of at the forefront, and this bear market is really going to expose a lot of new experiments around trying to solve that tension between token price and kind of governance efficiency and capture resistance for DAOs. So I'm excited to see what designs come in the future.
If I may here, quick question. I'm just kind of curious. I think you've already kind of just briefly touched on it, but what if you can name one thing that the successful DAOs are doing to contribute to their success, and then in contrast, one thing that the weaker DAOs are doing to kind of, in contrast, that are continuing to their failure, I guess, or their lack of success. Are you able to kind of illuminate these ideas here? I just find it so interesting that you have this view to these DAOs and just be able to watch their activities and see how it kind of affects their trajectory. It'd be really interesting to kind of hear your thoughts on this and see if there is any correlation there.
So for successful DAOs, I'd say that like outsourcing work and not depending solely on a community to like, do very complex things and then not being able to do so is pretty important. We've seen that in like Balancer and Aave where they outsource like highly technical work. As for like unsuccessful, I think that like there's still a lot of DAOs out there where there's like the hierarchy or whatever is like I don't know, like it's supposed to be flat, right? But like there's obviously people that have more voting power, etc. So like clearly defining roles, and that's like what a lot of DAOs struggle with is just like the power structure and like who makes what decisions, and then it becomes like a revolving door, and you have new people coming in saying, I want to be filling this role even though I have no experience, and like a lot of them are kind of just afraid to say that there's qualifications for doing highly technical work. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's interesting because sorry, Charles. Because what we've seen since in Unique, we have like multiple options for governance, right? And what we surprisingly or unsurprisingly have seen is that most of people actually tend to choose role-based governance as opposed to, for example, what we call deposit-based, right? So not based on how much tokens you have, how much you have contributed, but exactly like, picking the role and then the number of votes is assigned to a role and not like, the token. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting to see just in the future if people like are actually vetting people within the DAO and saying, hey, you're qualified to do this, here's your voting power. I feel like it'd make it a lot easier. But
one quick thing that I would add, and that I've seen that maybe more mature DAOs have done in like the last year and the last couple of years, as they grow and as they get more mature, is that they found or try to find a good structure. Either it's via sub DAOs, work streams, working groups, or external service providers. And that's something that is shared by all the DeFi blue chips, a ton of other type of more mature DAOs, and that is working pretty well for them because they can have some specialized teams that are focused on specific task, and that's where it's related to what Ryan was just saying. But yeah, so that's this structure that can be complicated to younger DAOs to put up because of course they are younger and they don't have the same community and the same team and the same needs as more mature DAOs. But it's something that they should keep in mind, and they should consider doing at some point if they want to scale their activities, to provide more solid service to their community, and to be able to achieve more meaningful things.
Yeah, something I'm actually wondering as we speak as well. Once again, to give you like a bit of a high level question here is, how do you actually see DAOs aligning with traditional systems moving forward? And by that, I mean specifically in terms of, there's these frictions that we're aware of in terms of legal setups, jurisdictions, how something so, let's call it decentralized, fits in the current system that we're operating in, right? Do you have any comments on that, and maybe any thoughts on how this might work moving forward, or develop rather?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question on something that I just took a look at the Uki DAO versus CFTC case, which for those who aren't familiar, the CFTC basically tried to take advantage of the Uki DAO's lack of a legal framework to assign personal liability to the founders for the DAO's actions. So this is something that I think is really being developed right now, and how do DAOs kind of fit into larger legal frameworks. I will say we've seen in the past 4 months or so a huge surge in DAOs basically making investments into some kind of legal structure and adopting some legal status. I think the majority of DeFi DAOs at least have kind of pursued the Cayman Islands Foundation structure. We've also seen, some DAOs go the LLC route, either in the United States or abroad. And then we've also kind of seen the nonprofit structure for some of the social DAOs. But as we've lacked kind of like a legislative framework, at least in the US, I think we're kind of reaching a boiling point where enforcement is going to potentially drive some of the legal environment for DAOs. And I think that's kind of a scary reality, both for DAO participants, DAO founders, and even down to VCs. So it's an important topic that I think there really should be more discussion about moving forward.
Yeah, and I wonder as well. I mean, just open for anyone, even Alex, if you have thoughts on this. If that's the case, right? If the trend is moving in that direction where we're seeing more DAOs establishing these legal entities, what are your thoughts then? Is there a future where DAOs do not require a legal entity? And if that's the case, then presumably they might only have a ceiling in terms of what they can achieve. Is that kind of the sentiment here? Is that the direction that things are going in?
Yeah, it's hard to speak kind of practically about this without getting into kind of like the esoteric philosophical argument of crypto at its core, which is basically trying to build a new like economic framework and governance framework for the world. So I don't want to say that like regulators are going to come in and change everything necessarily. I think, if the US got very aggressive, this could potentially get outsourced a lot of the development work and innovation to other parts of the world. I do think that as a US citizen, I really would like to see more push from the community to put pressure on legislators to create safe harbor laws, to create, space where people can create and kind of push the limits of finance and governance, and really like human organizations without the fear of being regulated. It's just been ignored for too long. And if you're paying attention in the space, you can see kind of like the money grabs, or the territorial power grabs, whether it's the OFAC or the CFTC or the SEC, picking up at kind of a scary pace here.
Yeah, a lot to think about there, and we definitely took you, in circles when it comes to this specific topic. But I guess to maybe make like a sharp U-turn back, specifically to Messari. So I guess in all of these things that we covered, something that's key, generally speaking, when it comes to adoption and user acquisition and just scaling, let's say this space generally, is educating people, right? And information being shared, the right information rather, right? And I say this by saying, I understand you guys have a newsletter that you're working on, right? Can you tell us a bit about this and what you're trying to achieve with that?
Yeah, so we're going to be launching our Governor DAO newsletter, which we're super excited about. It's basically going to be extending kind of the top research, the top proposals that we're seeing in the space out to the community in a way that provides it kind of at your doorstep, so that you don't need to go onto our website necessarily to keep up with everything that's going on. I'll say also there are some exciting product features being bit out in terms of like notifications, which you should keep your eye out for as well, as we start to develop this product to really kind of bring the information to you rather than you having to kind of go find it, whether on the forums or on our product. So that's kind of the vision here, is trying to make the experience even more seamless.
No, that's definitely an interesting thing coming from your end. I myself have actually subscribed to the newsletter, but it would be good just if you can comment on how our listeners here can check that out.
Yeah. To subscribe to our newsletter, I believe we have a tweet out on Messari Crypto that should give you a link to subscribe, and from there we can make sure that you guys are staying up to date with all the DAOs and proposals.
Awesome. Yeah. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, generally it's like hard to kind of remember these URLs and specifically like the links to things. So anyways, we can of course like check out your Twitter and your website and find exactly where to subscribe for those who haven't. A final, I guess, question on my side, which I'm not sure whether we covered, and that's the business model itself of Messari. So as I understand, you have certain things that are free and publicly available in terms of like the information, the research you do, and then certain things that require a subscription fee of sorts. Can you just comment on that briefly for us to understand? And then in relation to the governor section as well, what we can check out free of charge, any additional pro level or setting that requires any payment form, and then also for the newsletter, just to make full circle around how we can best leverage your platform and access it in different ways.
Yeah, for sure. So the governor product right now, I'm happy to inform everyone listening, is free to use, and that's kind of by design. We want this to be in the spirit of the DAOs and the projects that are creating in the Web3 space. We want the product to be open as well. So if you go to Messari.io and you click the governor tab at the top, everything underneath that is going to be free to access, free to use, free to vote on the platform, etc. In terms of the greater product suite at Messari, we have obviously our research, which is kind of the baby of Messari in terms of how it gathered its reputation. We have a huge team of analysts who put together really in-depth enterprise and pro-level content available kind of at those two pricing tiers. One thing that from the governor side we've started to do is creating these longer form reports on specific proposals. So these are 1,500 to 3,000 word in-depth insights into specific governor proposals. Right now, those are gated for enterprise and pro users, I believe. But moving forward, we hope to kind of work with DAOs and projects in the space to find out a way to provide those free to the community so that they're really reaching, active contributors or users or community members who want to be more informed about those DAOs and the most important decisions that those communities are making.
Awesome, thanks for sharing that. I mean, we definitely love free things, right? But then also the fact that you, beyond that, the in-depth research that you provide, which requires a subscription, is high quality as well, which is certainly appreciated. So you guys definitely have a powerful thing going on your end. And actually, with that, I mean, we do only have like 5 more minutes scheduled. Obviously, happy to go over that. But we've asked a bunch of questions, so it would be good for us to open it up to the floor. I see we have a bunch of interesting people in the audience, so maybe we can flip it over and have anyone ask any questions for our friends over here. So feel free to request if you're listening. And then also, if of course anyone else has any questions from the hosts, now's the time.
And while we're waiting for anyone to come up who may have another question, I just wanted to note that I just pinned up that tweet with information about how to subscribe to the newsletter here. So you can see that just at the top of the Spaces call for anyone who's interested. I will be signing up for that as we speak.
Also, of course, if Ryan or Trevor have any questions for us or the audience, we've been bombarding you with all of our thoughts and curiosities. So obviously, you're welcome to ask us anything as well.
Yeah, I guess if there's no one listening who has a question, I'd just ask you guys from your end, as people involved with DAOs and producing DAOs and working in DAOs, what is kind of the major information gap between kind of a builder and a team leader and your community that you find the most challenging to reach?
Very interesting question. Alex, maybe I can first pass that to you if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, well, from what we've seen with many DAOs, many general organizations, like the biggest question usually is exactly like the flow of the information itself, right? So how do you actually reach people in the first place? Because like in many blockchain products or whatever, there are very limited ways to actually reach people, right? Especially if it's like on-chain platforms, people don't want to leave their emails, they want to remain anonymous or whatever. So it's not as convenient sometimes as in the Web 2. There are products that are building for that exactly. And for example, I know in the audience building Giller that allows for easier access to DAOs from your mobile phone, for example, right? So that's something that is obviously a problem right now. And then in many cases, also if you're talking about like full-blown DAOs, then okay, there are founders and developers and everybody else who is actually like building out the protocol. And then there is the audience, or like not even contributors but participants of the DAO, who still need to contribute to the decision-making process, but in many cases they lack sufficient understanding of those things, right? Because especially for example, we're talking about protocol DAOs, you need to be both like technologically educated, to say the least, especially because blockchain can be very complex. And then, for example, you need to understand all the financial implications. And that's where, again, like, where we're talking about derivatives, for example, that can go insane, really. So, we are trying, not us, but like, in general, let's say protocol DAOs are trying to ask from people to be knowledgeable about all those things and make an informed decision on topics related to that. And that's really a lot to ask in the first place, right? So we do see a lot of struggles in this area as well. So it's a little bit different, of course, with other forms of DAO. So, for example, if it's like a social club or an NFT project, it might be easier, but still, especially with current situation, NFT projects sometimes have to bring up like very complex proposals in terms of how they should be sustainable as businesses, essentially. And again, not necessarily all the time those interests and that survival of a business is aligned with the interests of the community, which, like I already said, is in many cases just pump our backs, right? So all those things and that type of communication in many cases is really, really complicated and hard for projects.
Yeah, on that note, actually, we on the side of Unique Venture Clubs here in this call, we also understand like the importance of educating people, just generally speaking. So we are pretty much aligned with Messari when it comes to the fact that you guys have this newsletter initiative is something that aligns with certain things we're doing as well. So we actually have an academy page as well, academy.unique.vc, where we're looking to really educate people on all things DAO related and beyond, right? So if you actually check out that page, we wrote a DAO handbook, which is like a ultimate guide for starting your DAO adventure. And so covering, the basics from opening a wallet to building a community and so on. So this is a bit of like a free promo shill here. You can actually input your email address on our platform and get that PDF document for free. It's like 30 plus pages. And besides that, on this educational page that we have, we write on a bunch of different topics as well, like diversities of DAO landscapes, etc. So that's pretty key. Like we realized this early on, as I'm sure you realized as well. And the reason why you're doing all of this educational stuff is the fact that providing insight, information, and consolidating that is important for people. On that note, does anyone else have a question? Has anyone requested?
No, I have no request on my end here, but I did just want to make sure that I get a second here to just thank you guys for the work that you are doing for the community. I think it's with the potential that DAOs hold in the Web3 space. I just want to personally thank you guys for the work that you're putting in to educate the people and to really maximize the chances of success that people will have out there when they pursue these goals and these ventures. So thank you guys so much for all your awesome work. I look forward to following all the work that you guys continue to do.
Likewise, thank you so much for having us. It's been a pleasure, and it's always great to get on spaces with people excited about DAOs and DAO governance. So appreciate it, you guys.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for your time once again. We're like DAO governance geeks over here. We really like this space. Can even say like slightly obsessed over it. So the fact that you have like an entire section dedicated to this is of great like excitement and interest to us. So for one, we're very proud to be listed on your platform, and also very much look forward to using it both for our platform purposes, but then on an individual level to learn more and follow all the trends and activities going on in the space. So keep up the great work, and we hope to see what's to come, and of course newsletter coming out tomorrow. But with that, we'd just like to wrap up by saying, as mentioned, we have this Investing with Friends talk that we have every week. So just check out our announcements on Twitter, and looking forward to the next chat. Thanks, Ryan and Trevor, and of course, Thomas, who had to leave us due to another meeting. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.